we are, everybody, back with another sexy comic book characters video. Bet you didn't think you'd get another one so damn soon, did you? But you all wanted it, and I would even argue demanded it. And what do I do but give the people what they want? I learned a little something making that last video, and that is that my audience are a bunch of goddamn perverts. But you know what? I like to cut y'all's jibs, so let's do this. Too long of us human beings being shamed of our love of sexuality. In the 90s, it was the conservative Christians telling us that we can't love big old titties and ass, all for the good of the children. And today, the progressive Democrats making the exact same argument, saying that we are objectifying and sexualizing women. Both sides trying to remove our humanity under the guise of a moral high ground. But I reject both of these. I am a human and a man, and I will enjoy my titties and ass any goddamn time I want to. So all you pervs come from far and wide, gather around. While I cannot promise you will not be shamed, I can promise you will be in like company. So just like last time, we are going to talk about the forgotten beauties of comics. Now there's going to be a little bit of a change from last time. This time I actually went on and asked other people what kind of characters they would like to see on this list. So this list is going to be recommendations from you, the people. Some of these characters I don't know all that much about, but I did do a little bit of research and read the first few issues of their comic. So I don't consider these straight up recommendations for me. They're more so me giving you a basic feel and idea of what the comic's like. And then if you want to go try them out, go ahead. All right then, now on to number one. And that would be the woman with the second coolest name on this list, Lady Mechanica. As a young girl, she was abducted by a sadistic serial killer who removed body parts from his victims and traded them out with machine parts. Lady Mechanica had this done to her and had several of her body parts removed, from both of her arms to her eyes to more. Or so she was told, because she don't actually remember anything about her past. As an adult, she's an investigator who lives in Mechanica City, solving all different types of crimes, from missing persons to murders to pretty much everything else, while also trying to find out everything she can about her past. As it's very heavily implied, the backstory I just told you is a complete fabrication. The coolest thing about this comic, hands down, would be the style and tone. The truth is that no other comic really looks like this. The story exists within a Victorian steampunk world, and everything in the background, the environments and the characters, they're all drawn to match this aesthetic. And it's a very unique environment to read about in a comic. Every panel is just really beautiful to see, not because the art is somehow better than most, but because of that style. Two characters could be sitting on a couch talking and be surrounded by this beautiful Victorian architecture and crazy machinery all around them. Lady Mechanica constantly cycles through a bunch of different outfits. In fact, so far I don't think she's worn the same outfit more than once. And all of these outfits are absolutely gorgeous. The stuff she wears just has to be based on some kind of professional clothing design or something. Like, I'm not a cross-dresser, but if I was, this is the shit I'd be wearing. Shit looks cool. And the whole story has this very mysterious and dark tone. It's very horror-like. It gives vibes of like an old H.G. Wells horror story. Everything in the story looks dark and cold. The machinery mixed with human flesh is not given this pristine look. It looks kind of terrifying and awful. A lot of times it's gruesome and uncomfortable to look at. It's essentially treated as body horror how off-putting it is. This is a filthy, dark, horrifying world that these characters live in. And the atmosphere of the comics sells that very well. Lady Mechanica herself is also very unique as a main protagonist to this kind of comic. Maybe it's just the comics that appeal to me personally, but a lot of female-led comics that I have read have the main characters be these tough, rough and tumble kind of chicks who can like spar with the boys and drink booze and get into fights and fuck a lot and all that kind of stuff. Lady Mechanica isn't really like that. She's very proper and pristine, and I don't really know how to describe it other than saying she's like a posh British lady. It gives a very different vibe personality-wise than a lot of other characters on this list. So while I haven't read that many issues, I just started a couple days ago, I'm really liking it so far, and if anything I said sounds interesting to you, check it out, because it's pretty damn cool. So this would be the character with the coolest name on this list, because her name is actually Barbara. So Barb is her real first name, Wire being her last name. So her real name is Barb Wire. That's a pretty fucking cool name. So let me ask you something. What happens when you mix an alien invasion with a bunch of nukes? Well, according to Barb Wire, it creates a black hole that seeps out a bunch of energy into Earth and creates a bunch of mutants and superpowered freaks. I can't say I know the science behind that, but that's what happens. The story of Barb Wire takes place in present day, but an alternate present day where this crazy weird black hole thing opened up and did the thing I just said it did. This thing is called the Vortex. Barb Wire is a bar owner and a bounty hunter who lives in this really shitty town where everything sucks, crime is crazy, drugs are all over the place, police are corrupt as hell, and just everything just fucking sucks. I don't know what to tell you. It's awful. Think of any film depiction of Los Angeles from the 1980s, and that's basically what it looks like. Or, you know, just look at Los Angeles today. Barb Wire actually has a lot of unique aspects to her character. For one, she's a fucking loser. She's an absolutely terrible business owner that cannot keep her bar to save her life, so she's forced to start bounty hunting just so she could pay the bills. She's called out often for treating the people around her like crap. Like, it's said in the story that everyone around her she either treats as a customer or an employee, despite the fact that she doesn't really have any employees. She just sort of treats everybody like shit. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like she's an asshole or something. She does have a lot of of friends and she does try to treat them as best as she can. She's just very shitty at actually doing that. And one of the things I actually found very interesting about the comic is just how weak she is. Fighting against a room of normal human men, she's fine. She could take on most of them without too much trouble. She might get hurt here or there, but for the most part, she can take care of herself. The problem is that she doesn't live in a world with just human people. Most of the biggest bad guys in the city that she lives are mutants and superpowered beings. And against those, she straight up admits that she can't really do anything about them. They just completely trounce the fuck out of her anytime she ever tries to go up against them. It's almost humorous how badly she gets beat. And that gives the entire story a very different feel than you're used to one of these 90s action series. The story kind of makes it seem like you're not actually following the main character. In a story like this, you would usually follow the Judge Dredd character, or the Batman character, the character that has his shit together and can go in and whoop an entire room full of people without any problem, who strikes fear into all the villains of the city. But for whatever fucking reason, they just decide to follow this random bounty hunter who fucks up most of the time. It's kind of an interesting read just for that, to be honest with you. Definitely not my favorite comic on this list, but it's just different enough from the normal 90s bad girl comics that it might be worth checking out if you're interested. So I'm gonna be honest, I never really got into Tank Girl. I didn't want to, and you might think the reason's kind of stupid, but I hate her fucking hair. I mean, what the fuck even is that? Why? Just shave your fucking head. What do you even call that? It's like two slug dicks sticking out of your forehead. It looks so fucking stupid. Call me shallow all you want, but having a really cool character design goes a long way to selling your comic. And if I don't like the way the main character looks, I'm not gonna get the fucking comic. That's just the way it is. Yes, it's fucking shallow, but I mean, damn, I made 2 videos in a week about comic book sexy ladies. Obviously, I'm fucking shallow. That's a stupid fucking thing to say. But outside of that, what's the whole comic about? It's kind of fucking nuts, to be honest. So Tank Girl works for this military organization as a driver of a tank, and then one day she just decides, fuck this shit, steals the tank and drives off, and her stories are just her in this tank dealing with whatever issues she runs into. I know this description sounds very fucking vague, but Tank Girl doesn't really have a cohesive story. It doesn't even really have a cohesive continuity. Each one of her stories, without explanation, will take place in a completely different time period, or reality, or she'll be in some random location doing some random thing. It's wild and crazy as fuck. And yes, this is on purpose. This is like a whole thing. The character is crazy and animated and just essentially a Saturday morning cartoon character for adults, and the comic is written that way. Much like if you're watching a kid's Saturday morning cartoon where no story really connects to each other, it's just different adventures with this character in different locations. That's how Tank Girl is written. And Tank Girl herself is fucking nuts. She's a sociopathic wild woman that just gets random thoughts and feelings that she enacts on whenever. She usually doesn't have a solid goal or any character arc to speak of. She is, in all intents and purposes, a cartoon character. And if you've been on my channel for any amount of time, you'll know that character means a lot to me. Character arcs, character progression, seeing how characters evolve over time. Deep diving into the wants, desires, and psychology of characters is what interests me about storytelling. So Tank Girl just doesn't appeal to me personally at all. But if you personally like stuff like Harley Quinn and Deadpool, and you want to see that times a fucking 1,000, Tank Girl might be for you. For me, it just isn't my bag. I couldn't get into it. Even if her hair didn't make her look fucking retarded. Up next, for those who have a slight leaning towards the Latin ladies, we have La Muerta, also known as Maria Diaz. If I had to describe this character, I'd say she's the Punisher meets Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider. After her entire family is butchered by a violent gang, ex-US soldier and Afghan vet Maria Diaz grabs a couple of guns and goes on a shooting spree to get vengeance for what was taken from her. And she successfully avenges her family by like issue 2. After that, the story takes a very surprising turn into the supernatural. You see, up until this point, there actually isn't anything supernatural in the series. It's just a woman getting revenge for the murder of her family. But after she does this, she hangs her guns up and she decides to go on and live her life like normal. But by doing this, she got the attention of a supernatural being called Saint Muerte, which in this story is like a Catholic saint of justice. Anyway, Saint Muerte appears to Maria and basically tells her that she has been chosen as her new instrument of vengeance on Earth. After that, Maria takes up the mantle of La Muerta and basically becomes a scourge of the underworld, killing all kinds of evil that Saint Muerte tells her to kill. Now, I haven't read too much of this, only the first couple of issues, but it's basically just a gun-toting action series about a woman who really doesn't want to be doing this, but is forced to by this spirit. If you like shit like The Punisher, I find it very difficult to believe that you won't like this as well. On top of all this, it has all the same strengths that you would see in a coffin comic, which is essentially, it doesn't care about any of your modern sensibilities. The stories are about whatever they want the stories to be about. They're telling stories they want to tell, and they don't care if you're offended by them. Now, while I will say, based on what I've read from La Muerta, it's not nearly as sexualized as something like Hell Witch or Lady Death. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's sexy, but that shit can be downright porn sometimes. sometimes. Oh shit, you know what? You know what's a better comparison than Punisher? Desperado. Do you like Desperado? If you like Desperado, go check out La Muerta. That's a really good comparison. It's like a female Desperado. And sadly, that's all we got today. I know it's not as long of a list as it was last time, but the difference is that last time were characters that I already knew about. Since these were all recommendations that came from commenters, I didn't necessarily know all that much about a lot of these characters and had to take the time to read a few of their comics as well as research their characters a little bit. So if I did like 10 fucking characters like I did last time, you wouldn't have seen this video for another week or two. But don't you worry your sweet head, you sexy bitches, because I have a list and it can get as long as you want it to. So feel free to keep commenting characters down below and I will keep researching and keep making these types of videos. And I promise you I will get to them at some point. But that's going to be all for me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to like, subscribe, click that little bell icon. Don't forget to click that little bell icon. You ain't going to get notifications if you don't click the bell icon. And y'all be safe out there, you hear?